Thank you, Henrik, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, organizers, and thank you, delegates, for being here today. And welcome to the second session. My first contribution is about how to boost crew morale through the use of technology. My name is David Tropp Hag. I'm the Vice President of Sales for KVH Industries. KVH is a global leader in the content and connectivity field. We have been basically for 60 years been involved with various different lifeline services for crew on board vessels. Earliest days it was news deliveries to the vessels, news clippings, movie reel-to-reel cassettes and DVDs as time progressed. In the last 15 years, we've also been providing connectivity via satellite. So both of those services have been crucial elements in the welfare of crew on board vessels. We've also been involved in sponsoring the Seafarer's Happiness Index for a number of years. And we recently commissioned a study on Generation C's attitudes to maritime connectivity when they're on board vessels, to learn what is the needs of the future and what do young seafarers think about all this. So some of these trends I'll try to incorporate in my presentation here. We heard the last panel finishing on AI, and for the last years we've had a lot about AI in the media and the press, ChatGPT here and there and everywhere, and how robots and AI will take over the jobs. But the reality is very different from that. I think you're all aware and you all feel it. Based on the recent estimates from Korn Ferry, there is an 85 million shortage of skilled workers by the year 2030. So in that light, it's no surprise that shipping is also feeling that pressure. When I read this again, I came to think of a funny banner that I saw in Copenhagen driving through the city. Just when ChatGPT was really hitting the media, one of the trade unions had taken out, I think, a 40 by 40 meter banner on a construction site with the text, "ChatGPT, please finish this building." And I think that's a nice picture of what you cannot do with AI. But what are the more specific challenges for shipping other than just the general skilled worker shortage? According to the recent Seafarer Workforce Report, an aging workforce is approaching retirement, and that's a symptom of not having been able to keep the pipeline full, as Mr. Adami mentioned. So that's leading to an accelerated problem. One of the reasons particularly young people are choosing not to go to sea is the lack of connectivity, as we saw in our research. On a global scale, it's estimated that those 85 million skilled workers shortage is going to cost companies $8.5 trillion in unrealized revenues. So that's a good number. $100,000 lost revenue per missing person. And with BIMCO's latest estimates, the shipping industry is going to need 96,000 skilled seafarers in, 2026? So just around the corner. So you can take that number, multiply by 100,000. If you feel that a seafarer is worth that 100,000, like other skilled workers, I think there might be more. But that's 9.6 billion in unrealized revenue. So there's a good incentive to do something to motivate crew. So what can you do about it? I'm going to go through 5 points that are, funnily enough, all ending with a zing. Sounds good, doesn't it? First of all, when you provide welfare services to crew, it's important that you're addressing the crew's local interests and their native languages. Anyone who stayed in a hotel for a prolonged period knows how quickly you get tired of BBC World or the 100 channels that you don't understand. So look into whether you can provide crew something that they're genuinely interested in, something they would actually watch when they're at home. So this could be news from home in their native language, but it could also be entertainment content from different sources, not just Hollywood movies, but Bollywood if you have Indian seafarers. It could be Nollywood if you have Nigerian seafarers. But yeah, it could be TV shows from home, different stories. KVH does that. We source content from all over the world for the demographics of seafarers. Also make sure that you provide a variety of languages and skills, subtitles, so that all the crew can actually enjoy it, or a larger part of the crew can enjoy it. We hear a lot that English is the language on board, and we encourage people to learn better English. And it is true, and it's sensible arguments that there is a common language used on board. But on the other hand, if you're providing content that nobody wants, nobody understands, it's not really worth anything. Next up, are you ensuring that the content you do provide, if you do provide it, foster opportunities for onboard social interaction? Because social isolation and mental health are issues that are very high on the agenda. And one of the contributing factors is that crew do not feel there are reasons or occasions to gather and interact with each other on board vessels in the shared areas. So shipping companies must think of ways to create these opportunities, social life on board, and of course, take input from the crew on what they like to do. We hear things like barbecues is very popular, basketball tournaments, but from a technology point of view, KVH can help you with movie nights, we can help you with karaoke systems, and things like that. And they are very popular when they're on board, I can tell you that. From a legal point of view, there are a couple of considerations if you choose to go down the route of providing content for your crew. Or even if you provide facilities for crew to play back their own content. Using a licensed content provider like KVH, you avoid the cyber risks, for example, associated with bringing unidentified questionable media storage devices on board and plugging them into the network. Just as a general safety measure, you should always make sure that the crew network is separated from the business network on the ship. That's very easily done with normal VLAN technology and separation. But also, by using a licensed content source, you avoid the risk of getting slammed by lawsuits. That's a nice one to avoid because that's very high bills. And the studios are actually looking at this. Shipping obviously is not their biggest concern, but we have heard stories of ships being arrested because of illegal content on board. It's important to mention in that context that normal DVDs and normal for home streaming services are actually not licensed to be used on a vessel. So for vessel use, you require specific commercial non-theatrical licenses. So that's an important one to keep in mind. We heard a couple of times mention of connectivity, and thank you for the name check, Mr. Adami. But what are you doing to outfit your vessels with connectivity to allow for adequate access for the crew to share to internet and social media? In the most recent Seafarers Happiness Index, it actually indicated a growing satisfaction, which was I was very happy to see, with the access to connectivity. But there are mentions and there are lots of comments about there's still room for improvement, complaints about slow or expensive access to connectivity, or very big variability between different vessels. I mean, if you're working for a crewing company, you probably go to different vessels and you see a big difference in how they how they offer connectivity. There's a lot of hope these days in the seafaring community, brought about by the new technologies available, such as Starlink and OneWeb, and how they will finally bridge the gap between seaside connectivity and shoreside connectivity. So there is a big opportunity to improve life for your seafarers with new technology here. But it will require shipping companies to integrate these new services into hybrid solutions that are both fast, cheap, reliable, without sacrificing any of the safety for the ongoing business, of course, on the vessel. At the same time, you need to ensure that the connectivity for your, at the same time as you need to ensure the connectivity for your crew, you also need to make sure your budgets are optimized and you get maximum value for those. And this could be done by moving some of the heavy traffic loads, some of the less critical data masses from VSAT to cheaper services. And here, the new LEO services such as Starlink and OneWeb is one good example. Another one is 5G, 4G services, also getting more proliferation. And as vessels actually spend 30, 40, 50% of their time near shore, it's a good alternative to satellite communication. Of course, it depends on which type of operation, which type of vessel, some more than others. But because the pace of technology is so rapid at the moment, it's also important to look at solutions that are flexible, that are scalable, as technology will change. Services like agile plans from KVH, where everything is provided as a service, fully flexible, both in terms of month-to-month contracts, but also in terms of being up and down scalable all the time. It's good to consider. New technologies like Starlink will open up for streaming like at home, but besides the fact that I already mentioned this is not legal, it's also a very suboptimal way of utilizing your bandwidth. So if you have 3 or 4 or 5 people streaming at the same time, you can make sure nothing else will be possible on the internet connection, even with Starlink on board. So consider a solution where you can actually stream local content from a server on board instead of clogging the pipe with movies. But frankly speaking, satellite communication budgets are still a very small part of a vessel's operating budget. I think you mentioned, somebody mentioned that crewing was perhaps around 50%, salaries and logistics around it. Typically, satellite communications is less than 1%. So, given the importance that crew places on connectivity, given the importance you all mentioned here that shipping companies place on crew, you would think that there's a little bit of room to increase the satellite communication budgets. And by doing that, you can actually supercharge the experience on board, not just a little bit, but actually quite a lot. And this wouldn't just benefit crew on board in terms of connectivity, it would also enable shipping companies to automate, digitalize, and even digitalize tasks on board that are also one of the most important aspects of crew dissatisfaction, that they have so many trivial tasks that could much easier be done with automation. So, to summarize, the 5 recommendations are that you address the local interest of the crew, that you try to create situations where they can socialize, that you provide a variety of content that are sort of addressing the crew demographics in a legal manner, that you outfit your vessels with connectivity that allow for adequate access, as you would expect yourself if you were anywhere in the world and not with your family, and that you minimize your data and hardware costs so that crew content and connectivity is sustainable, while also taking into account, of course, all the usual concerns of cybersecurity and stuff like that. From our side, KVH is ready to help with solutions, connectivity and content solutions in the form of our TrackNet antenna systems that are hybrid ready, can provide you both with VSAT and 5G connectivity, and you can plug in Starlink. We also have our KVH Link services that provide you the movies, the TV shows, the karaoke, the funny viral videos from YouTube, everything on your server on board instead of having to go over the internet. Music as well, yeah. And we provide it on flexible terms. With our agile plans, we provide connectivity as a service. So you don't have to think about capital investments, you don't have to think about maintenance cost, everything is delivered in a monthly fee. You stop it when you don't need it anymore. So, easy peasy, 47 seconds left. How about that? 30 seconds for questions.
Just a short one. Thank you very much, David, for an interesting topic. I think when let's say my experience is that 3-4 years ago, it was a question when crew had to join a vessel, a seaman has to join a vessel, is there internet on board or is there not internet on board? Today, if there's no internet on board, nobody's joining. Today, the question is, what's the bandwidth and what's the speed? And can I see my Netflix film or what I can see? Connectivity is a basic thing like water and food on board today, I think. So that's the thing. And Adonis is, yeah. Then we see that everybody are hungry or thirsty for coffee. So we will just make a coffee break now. Try to make it, we're a little bit behind the schedule. So if everybody go and grab a cup of coffee and come back in 10 minutes time, then we catch up a little bit. Yeah, thank you.